So good afternoon, everyone. This is Audrey Russo, and today is Friday, June 4th. And why I say that date out loud is because this is the final session of business as usual. And I will make some remarks at the close of the event about our plans for the future, which we've already started. But right now I want to thank several key groups and organizations. So first, I would like to thank all of you, whoever has joined us today. We have had almost 6,000 people join us over, I think, almost 300 interviews. And we tried to provide relevancy each and every day about everything that was happening in our worlds. And it was just an incredible experience. I can't tell you how much work has gone into this. It's been a lot. I want to give a shout out to Brian Kennedy, who really has been the wizard behind the scenes in, making sure we have the right people talking to on the right topics, doing the research that we needed to do to prepare for each and every day, because this is not something that we just do extemporaneously. It takes a lot of research and time. I want to thank Jonathan Kirsting, who each and every day outside of this show has been working on telling stories, highlighting this community, and just shouting from the rooftops for almost a quarter of a century. And we have some fun things in store on that as well. So just because we're ending business as usual, people are going to lunch, people are having lives, and it's time for us to be part of this new world in this next chapter, which includes our pivot. So I want to give deep appreciation to Huntington Bank. I have said each and every day that they are amazing partners. They really are. They have believed in us. We've taken chances. We've done a lot of experiments, both Jonathan and I, and they have stood by us, encouraged us, and just been incredible partners. And if you don't know them by now, you need to. And, they really believe in community and are deep rooted in terms of their civic engagement. AT&T joined us throughout this series as we focused on public policy, but AT&T really stepped up to the plate, as they always do, in making sure that people got what they needed, particularly at the onset of COVID. And particularly as we started to rapidly see the lack of access and connectivity, AT&T was there. And the things that we did with the food bank, the things that we did in raising money for laptops and making sure people got connected. I can't thank AT&T for their support of us in all things public policy. And I also want to give a deep shout to the Jewish Healthcare Foundation and Karen Feinstein for also joining us on this journey. And we're not continued with that journey with any of these sponsors. We also have a lot ahead in terms of our partnership with the Jewish Healthcare Foundation and really looking at healthcare and high tech and what consideration is, and particularly what we've learned from this COVID journey. So I want to thank the hundreds of guest speakers. We have everything out there on YouTube, hundreds of speakers, just crazy, amazing people who each and in their own right are incredible things to drive not just the economy across Pittsburgh, but even outside in the world, because we had a lot of those people from outside the region helping us breathe life into them. So thank you for joining us on your lunch breaks or whatever you did at noon. If you're like me, you slept long into the morning and then started your day perhaps at a different time. And on that note, I just want to move into our guest for today. This is a great way to wrap up this series. And we have with us Ryan Whelan, and he is at the Defense Innovation Unit, and he's going to talk a little bit about that in a moment. And we've muted your microphones. Jonathan is going to be looking at questions, opportunities to ask Ryan some questions. But I want to thank everyone for just being our partners in everything that we do, giving us feedback. We are nothing without all of you, and I just can't thank you enough. So let's get started. So Ryan Whelan, so thrilled to have you today, and welcome. Before we talk about the Defense Innovation Unit and the role that your organization plays in helping the Department of Defense find solutions to so many of their key problems, who is Ryan? Can we just learn a little bit about you, and then we're going to jump into your current role at the innovation unit.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me on, Audrey. I think this series that you guys put on is really fascinating. I wasn't aware of it before, and then Brian shared it with us. I think it's a really great opportunity. One of the things we're trying to do at DIU is actually do kind of expand our engagement, because I think similarly folks don't necessarily know who we are, and I know you guys have heard from a number of other organizations and kind of the defense innovation ecosystem. So I look forward to talking about that a little bit today. But me, so I'm actually at DIU currently as a fellow. So I'm what they're calling an industry innovation fellow or an entrepreneur in residence. I sit within their cyber portfolio. I'm on civic leave from my company. I usually, my full-time job is back at FireEye Mandiant, who's been in the news for a number of things over the last 6 months. So I run globally. I run all the intelligence services for the Mandiant business. And then I'm here though. I started civic leave back in August of last year, and I'll be with DIU through August of this year, supporting their cyber portfolio with things like tech scouting, industry outreach, things like that, kind of evangelizing DIU's mission to try and bring in new and innovative tech, non-standard technologies, new vendors with the Department of Defense, right? And so that's kind of we'll talk more about that. How I got here, I started as a military guy. I'm still an Army officer on the reserve side. I did time doing contracting. I did time as a consultant, a tech consultant for a long time. Some deployments in there, and then ended up kind of making my way through Mandiant. I was at a Big Four. I was at PwC before Mandiant. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. I'm happy to talk more about that as well. I'm also happy to kind of talk more about civic leave if that becomes something that's of interest, because it's something I definitely want to push more within industry, because I think it's a really good way to drive public-private partnerships and deeper understanding of both the government side and commercial side perspectives. So.
Well, it's great. So you want to talk about some of the objectives of the DIU, and I'm trying not to get it flipped up to say DUI. So you want to talk more about the DIU and what the key objectives are and some of the market sectors that people need to be thinking about in terms of the opportunities?
I will, and I will
pull up everything. It cuts across everything.
It does, and I'll pull up some slides. Hopefully you can see that.
Okay.
I'm not one to talk about, talk off the slides constantly, but I think it's a good reference point. I also shared some of these with you guys, Audrey, so I think the members can see the slides, but frankly, this is on the website, right? But so, DIU's mission at the end of the day, right? DIU is born of a need to continue to advance, kind of innovative technology adoption within the Department of Defense. As we all know, right, and as you all know as vendors, many of you who do business with the government on multiple levels, the government is a challenging beast to engage and do business with. We have a system that, for better or for worse, kind of rewards the large companies who have the, who have the overhead to spend on, putting a lot of time and investment, things like that, to going after large enterprise style contracts and, kind of running, they've baked the process for how to go through the traditional acquisition system. And there's a lot of goods, that exist on the traditional acquisition side. There's a reason it became what it is. But the concern is that it excludes new and innovative companies don't have the overhead to spend there, and frankly the overhead they do have, they want to be spending it on continuing to innovate and continue to drive growth and continue to drive their product to a state of readiness that they need to make it do with to solve the problems that they're trying to solve. And so DIU's whole mission is to try and bring in and kind of open lower barriers to entry to small businesses, to startups that are bringing new technologies that are mission critical, that have the ability to transform the way we do business into the Department of Defense. And so that's really what what we're trying to do. There's obviously an added benefit of the more that we can do that, right? The more we strengthen the nation's innovation base, and the more we kind of reward those new ideas, which we need to do in order to kind of remain at the cutting edge from a national security perspective. And so I think that's really important. You're right. We span, I'm going to flip through a couple of slides here. So sorry, I'm going to skip over a couple of things that I have in here, but that you guys don't necessarily need to see, but, or I'll talk to them if we need to. But for, where does DIU focus? I mean, yeah, the answer, Audrey, is we kind of focus across the board. We kind of focus everywhere, right? So we have, it used to be 5, now 6 portfolios. So we just added advanced energy and materials this year is the newest portfolio. Like I said, spend most of my time kind of advising the cyber portfolio, but there's a lot of crossover with AI ML. There's a lot of crossover into autonomy, as we consider cybersecurity for those types of systems. Human systems, think about anything that kind of touches the confluence of human interaction with technology, right? So a lot of our medical type projects are run out of human systems and things like that. And then space, obviously we're seeing a rapid acceleration of commercial space technologies, so it's sensible that we're there. So realistically, you can kind of drive a truck through any one of these portfolios, and I think have fit. So, but the bottom line is, we're on the lookout for the best technology possible that's going to help advance the defense mission. It's probably worth noting with that, just this slide, that we always try and work with defense end users, right? So we're not an end user organization ourselves. We're trying to facilitate a more efficient acquisition process for new and innovative companies. But what we're trying to do is one of the things we want to do is we want to bridge that adoption valley of death. And so one of the ways we've gone about doing that is to always bring kind of a defense end user to the table, rather than us investing in tech and then trying to shop it around. We want an end user who's invested in transitioning that technology from the beginning. And so the other benefit, I think, of working with us is we're gonna make those connections to, whether it's the services or a COCOM or a large department within the Department of Defense. I think all those are options, but that's kind of how we operate. And I can talk more about this model or kind of take it whatever direction works best for.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's important for people to sort of understand this, and I appreciate you getting right to this. And you talked about sort of the valley of death. What's sort of like the profile of the potential companies, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great question.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the profile is a great question, because we do have kind of a specific profile that we're looking for, but that doesn't mean that if you don't fit that profile, you shouldn't engage with DoD. It means that there's other organizations that are like our sister organizations that are the right places to engage. So in terms of what are we looking for, right? So we're really looking at commercially validated companies, so companies who already have technology in existence, right, that have a certain level of commercial customers, right, that are using that technology today, right? So a company that is kind of just building or just investing in and trying to kind of refine and get ready the technology that they're put together is probably not quite mature enough for a DIU project yet, because what we're trying to do is say, hey, you have company X, you have an automation technology that is ripe for use in DoD. You already have 50 customers on the commercial side. We know that it is, you can demo the product. We know that it exists because you're using it already commercially. Clearly commercial customers are getting value out of it. So the fact that that commercial use provides some validation that the company and the product is legitimate. And what we're saying is, okay, we do everything on other transaction authorities. And we're going to say, we're going to take, that product, understand that it's in commercial use today. It may not be 100% ready for DoD use. So we're going to put you on a prototype OTA contract in order to kind of build, feature build or dev out that product the last full mile to get it ready for DoD use. Now, the way we run these, the solicitations is they're competitive up front. So you compete with others who have a solution in whatever the problem space is that we've defined in order to win that prototype OTA contract. But once you perform, once you're selected, and if you perform well under the prototype OTA, we can move directly to transition without additional competition, which is helpful, right? So that upfront competition counts as for all the competition needs. And the agency can go directly to a production contract, which are obviously can be multi-year, higher dollar contracts on the back end of that. And that's how we've kind of looked at bridging that gap. Now, for earlier stage companies, depending on where they are, maybe they're really kind of idea phase going into just trying to get a product off the ground. That's right. That's better for like the lab ecosystem that we have and some of those, thinking like Army research labs, Air Force research labs. And so we collaborate with them to get, to push folks to them and pull, new ideas out of them. as those mature. For kind of companies in between, that might be really early, kind of earlier, maybe they have initial product ready, but it's not, it's not quite totally validated yet. It's not commercial. There's organizations like the National Security Innovation Network that runs challenges. There's organizations like National Security Innovation Capital that's looking at investing in dual use technology. And then obviously the plethora of accelerators and things like that exist that can also be leveraged to engage DoD.
So I think there's a question, Jonathan. Do you want to ask a question from Dave?
Absolutely. I've asked many questions from Dave DeMays over the past year and so
I'm going to miss Dave. Dave, you're going to have to stay connected to our next iteration.
Exactly. So I have a little tear in my eye possibly as I read this. So here's what we got. Dave says, we collectively as citizens, professionals, and political leaders seem to have continually fallen deeper over many years into a vulnerable IT landscape that has significant implications for everyone's quality of life. What is going to be brought to the table in a major way that is going to reverse that trend, notwithstanding the massive amount of IT innovation has arrived over the same time frame?
That was a lightweight question, Dave.
Yes.
Yeah.
John, can you just say the first part of that again? I want to make sure I was clear on that.
Yeah, basically, we collectively as citizens really have seemed to have continually fallen deeper over many years into a vulnerable IT landscape that has significant implications for everyone's quality of life. What's going to be brought to the table in a major way that is going to reverse this trend, notwithstanding the massive amount of IT innovation that has arrived over that same time frame. So it's like gone deep in this hole, but more innovation keeps coming. How do we get out of that hole?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, and I'm going to drop the slides for now, Audrey, but if I need to pull them back,
drop them. Yeah.
But so no, look, I think it's a great question. And I wish I could say that like we're about to solve the whole thing, because that would be nice. I think there's a few problems that we've had, some of which will persist and we just need to be ready to deal with them. Some of which we can certainly reverse, I think, by being smarter than one is just, security has kind of persistently been, and I don't think this is necessarily going to go away. Security usually comes in as a secondary thought, right? It becomes a, something, a feature add or something that has to be, layered on top of technology as it graduates into broader use, because obviously we need to provide security for our customers, we need to provide security for our partners, or and frankly our vendors and other folks that we interact with. But if I'm starting, I usually start or build a new piece of technology to solve a specific problem, and so I'm thinking about solving that problem. I'm not thinking necessarily about how I keep that product. It's not a criticism of it. That's just kind of how our ideas and the innovation cycle works. I think we're getting better about thinking about security up front, both because of the volume of incidents. I mean, you can't turn on the TV, you can't turn on the radio or podcast, whatever it is that we're listening to these days, without hearing about kind of a new attack, without hearing about a new ransomware event and things like that. We know, I think increasingly the level of awareness is making its way into our consciousness. And some of these things like SolarWinds, has really drawn attention to the supply chain problem and the risk, not only of our, hardware supply chain, which I think we've kind of known about more materially, but now understanding, more deeply, the reality of, risks in the software supply chain. And so I do think, you look at the new executive order, I think you look at the president's proposed budget, there's certainly a policy push to start to move out to put the right types of, or at least better protections in place to get better visibility on our software supply chain and start doing things like, hey, if this is built on some sort of open source code, was that open source code flawed from the beginning? Have we accounted for those flaws and those vulnerabilities? So I think that's, I think those are some signals in the right direction on the policy front. There's technology that makes all of that a lot easier to automate, and you can run code through checkers and things like that in a much more efficient manner today than you could before. And there's companies obviously that specialize in that, and I wouldn't surprise me. Obviously at an organizational and agency level, organizations are investing in that kind of capability today. I think we need kind of more of a whole of government approach to some of that probably not get to an efficient whole of government approach ever, maybe, but doubtful. But we'll try, which is good. I think the other challenge though is just we're flawed as human beings, right? I mean, you look at we still have the plethora of initial entry vectors into organizations for compromises is around just human error, right? Clicking on a link that comes in a phishing email or something like that, or now clicking on a link that comes through a LinkedIn contact or something like that I didn't realize was malicious. And so we're getting to that those vulnerabilities, that human error is never going to go away. So getting to the level of fidelity, new technologies that are allowing us to protect data, crown jewels and things like that at the data level, at the data layer, and really being able to kind of secure with high fidelity and to different degrees of protection, where you can still allow kind of efficient network operations and efficient use of IT systems without bogging it down, but protecting the most important data at a level of security that buys down risk significantly enough for a company. I think there's a lot of technologies moving in that space as well, and then you have the whole all the secure cloud and kind of secure access management pieces that are moving. But to be honest with you, I feel like right now the biggest challenge for us is it's not usually, as with always, it's not usually on the technology front. There's a ton of technology that can help us in a number of ways. It's on the policy front. How are we going to adopt that technology? Do we have acquisition processes efficient enough to get it in? And I think we're making the right strides to get there. But we're, I think the risk or the concern, at least from a national security perspective, is, are we moving fast enough to stay ahead of our adversaries? And on that, I don't know, at least universally, I don't think we are yet. So.
No, I think that's probably true. So John Scarpino has another question.
Yeah. So how has DIU partnered with colleges and universities really to get the need out for education around cybersecurity and the need for professionals?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So DIU has one specific program that I'd highlight that is called the Cambridge Project, that's run out of our Boston office, and they're partnered now with Harvard and MIT and a couple others to kind of get them involved in helping to basically kind of essentially so working with defense end users and coming up with an idea for a project that can then be graduated that we can go out and solicit solutions for and things. That's DIU's kind of most significant academic engagement. I mean, aside from like discussions and things like that. The National Security Innovation Network, which is a reporting organization to the DIU, but really has kind of an earlier stage mission, like I mentioned before. So they run Hacking for Defense, which is basically putting out a bunch of defense-related problems and allowing companies to start solutioning against those problems, obviously to drive innovation development in that direction. They have a number of, so they actually have university directors that are controlled at a regional level, so broken up regionally across the nation, that do specific university engagement, running projects and programs that are similar to like the Cambridge Project, but at a much broader level. So for kind of the defense innovation ecosystem, I'd say NSIN, National Security Innovation Network, is kind of the belly button for that kind of academic engagement. That's one of their kind of core pillars of focus. We have a few projects like the Cambridge one. I may, over time here, be trying to start another one up actually out of Chicago. But so we'll have some, but I think we'll always drive that through NSIN. And happy to put you guys in touch with, or Audrey, if it makes sense for one of your sessions, get some of the NSIN representation on here to talk to you guys more about their.
Yeah, we definitely would. I mean, I think one of the things is we want to make sure that we have a DIU visit Pittsburgh and spend time visiting with companies that are here. So we'll follow up.
That'd be great. Yeah, look, everybody's going to want to travel as soon as possible. So,
yeah, we've been out, but I mean, it would be great for you to, for the team there to really see what's happening here. And so then, lastly, your role is actually special. At the DIU, you actually are heading back into the private sector, and I love this kind of toggling back and forth because I think that's where the tremendous value is. Are there opportunities for people in Pittsburgh to join the DIU and its similar kind of fellowship?
So I think the short answer is yes. The longer answer is I'm the first one of these that we've done. And so I think we're trying to learn, how to do them. The program that I'm on is actually called the Cyber Information Technology Exchange Program. It's relatively new. It's run out of the DoD CIO's office, but you can Google it, Cyber Information Technology Exchange Program. There's information, online. It'll come up on that. I'm going to let my dog inside, who's right outside my door barking, because my wife, I'm sure he's trying to get to the kids. Oh, and his toy. So
good problem. These are good problems.
But so that program is theoretically open to any company that wants to partner with it. And then there's other programs, right? I'd highlight things like Presidential Innovation Fellows, which has gotten a lot of attention, which doesn't necessarily feed just to DIU, but obviously feeds into government holistically to drive more innovation, technologically considered innovation, and things like that. And I actually suspect, and I'm in a process right now of trying to hunt down and understand what programs like the SciTech program are available across DoD, because I suspect there's actually far more than we realize that have been stood up in silos, and we haven't kind of taken broad accounting of them. So I'm working with a group of folks, some Presidential Innovation Fellows, some former Presidential Innovation Fellows, to take accounting of that, because what we'd like to do is push civic leave as something that companies start to invest in as well, right? And make that open to folks to as a career progression opportunity to go into government, get some time there. Because I think on the industry side, we tend to underestimate sometimes some of the technology talent that exists in government, because there really is some good tech talent. And I think on the government side, they tend to underestimate, they tend to see industry as, for profit and, driving a bottom line, and not as mission focused as, frankly, so much, you talk to pretty much any CEO, any executive leader in industry, and they're pretty darn patriotic at the end of the day, right? It's just different, the mission aligns a little bit differently. So I think, breaking down those barriers is only going to be helpful, and is, frankly, in our system and in our society, probably how we're going to drive the type of public-private collaboration we need to compete, long term. So
yeah, we love that. I personally love that, and I'm sure Brian Kennedy, who's on our government affairs side, can really see, it creates a dimension that is totally underestimated, and it's transformative. So I can't thank you, Ryan. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Just jumping in and telling us a little bit about the work. We'll put the link out, we'll share it. Maybe some people will reach out to you on LinkedIn. It won't be any kind of phishing, but it'll certainly be people from Pittsburgh that might want to reach out to you. Look to connect and with the team back at your ranch, and hopefully they'll come back and they'll come to Pittsburgh and understand what's happening here. So thank you. And that brings us to the end of today's session. Thank you for being here. For those of you who my earlier remarks, I just want to say that this is the final session of Business as Usual. It's been an honor. It's been a privilege for me to come into your homes, come into your life, and listen to the makeshift offices that we've all been operating out of, and their dogs and their cats and their family and their spouses and their kids. It's just been an honor. 15 months of this each and every day, almost 6,000 people. And again, deep thanks to Brian Kennedy for making sure this happens, and my partner in crime on many things in terms of marketing and media is Jonathan Kirsting, and for all the people behind the scenes that make it work on our team. We have a whole team of people that are just incredible. So we're very proud to have served, all of you during the pandemic. And like never before, we've been able to capture history through this series. Each of our more than 280, 300 sessions of Business as Usual are available on our YouTube channel. And we've decided to sign off today by launching a marathon Business as Usual by taking you all the way back to the first session that we held on March 23rd, 2020. And if we kept playing the entire series, it would run continuously for 6 full days. So feel free to stick around with us, share your experience, give us feedback, let us know in the chat session. I'm going to hang out for a little bit. So what's next? So what's next is, if you know us, you know that we always have something up our sleeve, and we're always trying to be ahead of the game and doing pivots. So first of all, we're looking forward to connecting with all of you in person and very soon. Our first in-person program kicks off this month. We're working as quickly as possible to bring even more exciting opportunities to you. So in terms of our virtual programs, we're also proud to be kicking off a new series called Beyond Business as Usual. And we will do that on June 17th at 2 p.m. So not during your lunchtime. And it is going to be with Pennsylvania State Representative Ed Gainey, and who just won the Democratic primary for the mayor's office. So I hope to see you soon. Once again, thank you for everything. Thanks for believing in us. Really appreciate all of you. It's in many ways, it seems bittersweet, but I can't believe we've been doing it this long, and you know it's time for a change. So Brian, you wanna let the reel run?
About 75 employees. But during 2001, we went from 45 people to 14 people. So it was really difficult. In 2008, we, again, market starts to go down.